So to build this type of hierarchy of friendships and acquaintances takes a lot of risk, a willingness to be hurt. Not that you want to be hurt, but you say, you know what? It's worth that sacrifice for the benefits of encountering these other people. Welcome to the College of Valor, where we empower truth seekers with the art of reason. Hope is the motivation, truth is the goal. Everyday valor is the practice, better living is the result. Hey friends, thank you for listening to College of Valor today. This is part 2 on the How to Build a Life segment. And so if you haven't seen part 1 yet, which is just labeled How to Build a Life, go back and review that one perhaps to get the full context. But in this episode, we talk about so many fun things like the value of true friendships and professional relationships as well. We talk about religion and what place that might have, what value that might have in people's lives. We talk about career development. We talk about mental health. We talk about deceptions in the world. And we also talk about the value of loving to learn. So anyway, lots of insights that become building blocks for building a really, really fantastic life. Thanks again, and I hope you enjoy the show.
I wanted to shift gears a little bit because I remembered a different aspect of how to build your life. And I love your analogy. You've told me this a few different times growing up, but it's well, I guess it's not really an analogy, but it's kind of a system for how to build your life in the social aspects with the different circles that you have. And I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit for our listeners on how to build your life socially.
Mm. You're rattling the cobwebs. I have to go back and rethink all of this, but really, let's kind of do a Venn diagram, but instead of an overlapping Venn diagram where two circles intersect, we're going to have unions where you have a circle and a circle and a circle and a circle, kind of like a
Mm,
target, right?
yeah.
And that innermost circle, the small one in the middle, hopefully that's where you find your soulmate. And there aren't many soulmates in this life experience. That's a very precious thing. And it may not necessarily be only your spouse. I mean, you can have buddies that are soulmates as well, lifelong friends that, just you feed each other. And it's so
Right.
rewarding to be in that kind of a friendship. And that's great, but it's rare. It's super, super rare. But your spouse better be in that inner circle or you've got
Yeah.
some
Oh my
challenges.
gosh.
And then the next ring out, you would call your friends, not soulmates, but friends. And these are people that you don't agree with on everything, but you can get along and have fun together. And when you're throwing a party, these are the ones you think of. When you think, wouldn't it be fun to go on a trip with a bunch of buddies? These are the people you think of, right?
Mm,
These are the people that you have allegiance for, and they have allegiance for you. And they're also pretty rare, but there are more of those than there are soulmates, right?
right.
But those types of friendships are rare. I think most people would be lucky if they, in a lifetime, had 10 really solid friendships.
Mm, yeah.
Then the next layer out, you have people that you like to do some things with, might be the way to say it. You could call them friends, but it's like, we really are only friends when we play poker on Friday night. We're not going to
Right.
do anything else together. Or, we're only really going to be friends when it's time to go to this kind of a movie or a production because no one else likes it. But I know she does or he does.
Mm,
So those are the kind of people that you agree to disagree on a lot of stuff, but you have some common interests, you know? So those are good people to have in your life. A lot of people might discount that and say, well, if they're that different than you are, why hang out with them? But I encourage people, different strokes, to get along and get those perspectives because it enriches your life. And then outside of that circle, you finally get to what I call acquaintances. And these are people that you know, but they're not friends yet. If you met them
Mm,
in a room, you may or may not remember their name, but you know where you met them, that kind of thing. Hopefully,
right.
you remember their names. That's important. But you'll have these acquaintances. Here's something that's kind of fascinating in my mind is what an amazing resource it is to have these people in your life, to be a part of their lives and for them to be a part of yours. And you know what? Guaranteed 100%, they're going to hurt you.
Yeah.
They're going to frustrate you and hurt you and make you feel small and angry. And the closer they are to that soulmate on the inner circle, the more it hurts. So to build this type of hierarchy of friendships and acquaintances takes a lot of risk, a willingness to be hurt. Not that you want to be hurt, but you say, you know what? It's worth that sacrifice for the benefits of encountering these other people.
Right. I think that takes a lot of self efficacy too to be able to let people into your life like that, because you have to believe that when that does come up, it's not really an if, it's a when that situation arises where you get really hurt, you have to believe that you have the ability to handle those negative emotions and that it's going to be okay and that you can take care of yourself and kind of walk yourself through that experience.
Mm, yes. And you learn from it. And you're also going to learn that there's some people that you need to keep a little bit distance from the inner circle. And it doesn't mean that you don't need to include them as a casual friend, right?
Mm,
But you just say that person's not to be trusted. But if you don't trust anybody, you've got some work to do on the inside,
right.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's some wounded inner child work right there.
Oh man, it is. It is. And I know that there's a temptation for people to hide from the social pressures and demands, and life can beat you up to the point that you want to become a kind of a recluse, you know. But I encourage you not to do that. It doesn't matter how introverted you feel. And introversion, by the way, is good. So is extroversion. It's good. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
personality type. But if you feel like these social things are just really really difficult, it's so much easier just to stay home. Then p- kick yourself in the seat of the pants. Get out there and invest in these friendships. It's life giving. Not only
Yeah.
that, but there will be a time when you're going to need people, and
Mm,
there will be a time when people need you. And when you're able to help somebody in need, that is such a blessing in your own life. And then when you really need to be helped, if someone's around to do that for you, man, that's fantastic. So I was speaking personally about friendships and relationships, but we also need to talk about professionally what your network looks like,
right.
because there's a parallel world in the professional world where you know people. Some of them are acquaintances, some of them are coworkers, some of them are business partners. You know, some people you work elbow to elbow, and other people you just need to interact with them professionally once a year. But the larger a network of professional capital, professional acquaintances, right? Contacts that you have, the better off you're going to be when you're looking for another job, or when you're trying to figure out a promotion, or when you're trying to accomplish something in a project and you're like, I don't know where to start, but I know someone who does. So
Mm,
that's not the same as friendships, but there will be overlap. Some of those professional relationships can become personal friendships as well. Um, but I just wanted to highlight that having that professional network, mm, that's important. Build that.
right. Yeah. What is that quote? It's not what you know, but who you know.
Yes. Yeah. Quite often that is the case.
Mm,
So,
yeah. That's really great. And I also wanted to ask in terms of financially, I know we touched on this a little bit, but from a financial standpoint, how might one be wise with their finances to build a life that will support them?
There are entire YouTube channels and podcasts and all sorts of media that does nothing but answer that one question or try to.
Yeah, it's kind of a
And
big question.
we could spend weeks on it. But because we're trying to give an overview, I want to give what I personally feel like is probably the most important aspect, a starting point for that. Um, have your attitude about money in the right place,
Mm.
your belief
So what does
system
that look
about
like?
money in the right place, because everything else will follow that. Everything that we do, all like we've said before, all the little decisions we make and the big ones too, all hinge on our belief system. So if you don't have a solid belief system about money, you're going to just mess yourself up.
Hmm.
So that's where you start. You have to have the right attitude about money. And here are a couple of, I'm just going to a handful off the top of my head, things that attitudinally matter about money. Number one, debt makes you a slave. Avoid it. Another one, there is such thing as enough. And if you don't know what that is, then you're never going to be able to enjoy having money. You have to know what enough looks like. Um, Another thing is generosity. If you're hoarding money all for yourself, it's never going to make you happy. So generosity matters. Financial goals, like everything else, that matters. And you can have different types of ways to try to build wealth, but you have to define wealth. Wealth is not necessarily what the ledger says. Wealth could be other things, like I am so wealthy because look at all these amazing friends I have. I'm wealthy because I have an intact family with these beautiful kids that are just filling my life with joy. That was my wealth. It's wealth is not just about money. So if you get your attitude about money straightened out from the beginning, then you're going to do a lot better. And then you also need to get all the financial acuity together to figure out the nuts and the bolts and the hows and the won'ts and the don'ts. But the bottom line is you got to get it sorted out. You got to
Hmm.
figure out what money is for and about. And money is not the answer, guys. Like I'll just say what I've said before. Money is not a thermometer. It's not a way to keep score. It's not a way to compare your success to someone else's or even your success to your dreams of success. Money is none of those things. Money is only a problem to solve.
Yeah, it can be a tool as well. I like what my uncle said. He, typically a lot of people um stress about money and spending money, but his philosophy was, well, there's always a way to make more of it. It's just a
That's true.
dynamic equilibrium.
Yep. And the better you learn how to earn money, the easier it is to do it again and again in new ways. It really is
Right.
true. And that comes with life experience. So you just got to try. And that's kind of entrepreneurial, but not only entrepreneurial. You learn how to interview well and how to change jobs well. You'll actually advance in your career much more quickly if you're willing to change jobs every couple of years. That
Mm.
that really advances people. And one of the reasons, just a corporate insider thing here, you work with a group of 10 other people and your peers, and they know you, and you've complained about the boss and the company together, and you've blood, sweat, and tears. You've gotten angry with each other, and you've had some successes and some challenges, and then there's time for a new manager of the group. Are they going to pick someone out of that group to be that manager? These people know you too well. It's really, really hard to manage your peers. And the peers don't want to be managed by you because they know too much about you. So if you want to become a manager, you have to change markets or locations or businesses to go to become a manager of a group of not peers, but a group of direct reports. So,
Mm.
insider right there, if you want to move up in management through the chain, then it's very, very hard to do that by staying where you've been. You've got to move around.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to ask as well, there's definitely an intellectual component to
Mm.
how to build a life. What do you think that looks like or can look like?
Well, the first thing to know if you're a recent college graduate or maybe you're in college, um, college can really spoil people on learning. You get force fed stuff you didn't want to learn in the first place until you're gagging on it. And then it's like, never again. Okay, well, that attitude is self-defeating.
Mm,
And college feels that way. I get it. But you can also look at your post college life as the chance to learn the things you really wanted to learn and they didn't teach you in college. And that's part of building a knowledge base and becoming smarter in a way. Maybe your IQ doesn't change that much, but I tell you, the more knowledge that you gain, the more perspective that you gain, that's very, very useful. The most successful people out there, CEOs, entrepreneurs, presidents, the people that are the movers and the shakers in the world, they read a lot. They're prolific readers because they've learned how much they can learn from books. I mean, you can learn from a book what might take 10 years to learn just with life experience. And as you look into all these things, you read a lot and you learn a lot from these things. Then you gotta sift it and filter it because there's a lot of junk out there. A lot of people trying to make money by selling a book. So
mm,
you've got to be wise enough. But the more you encounter information, the better you're going to be able to discern, oh yeah, that's actually a really good point, or that's hogwash. But either way, make a habit of loving to learn. Loving to learn.
yeah, absolutely. I think that we should get a book list going on College of Valor.
Yeah. And it's not just books these days, too, by the way. I mean,
It
there are
could be
some amazing
podcasts
podcasts
or
and
YouTube
YouTubers. I mean,
videos.
there's so much that you can learn through that way. I subscribe to so many different YouTube channels. And it's just because I want to be reminded, oh yeah, yeah, these are the people that have been looking into XYZ, and I need to know more about that. So
Mm, yeah, so we've talked about a lot of different things in terms of how to build the life, and lately, um, in our current society, and it's even become a cultural thing, it seems to be the status quo, like the new fad to have poor emotional health.
no.
That makes it very difficult to build a life if you're convinced that you're anxious and depressed, and um you may have a lot of other sort of mental things that are going on in your life that are stopping you from building your life. They're kind of large roadblocks. And I would like to preface this by saying that I I believe that anxiety and depression are real mental health issues that um, a lot of people struggle with, for sure. But I was wondering what your perspective was on potentially being able to overcome those roadblocks to better build your life in an emotional sense.
It'd be really easy right here to spout some psychobabble one-liners, and those one-liners generally do have merit, but they're not universal and they're not necessarily truths. Um, Boy, this is a hard thing because I can't necessarily look at another person's life experiences and what they're going through and be able to say, you're overreacting, or you're, no, man, that's legit. I think
Mm,
each individual has to kind of sort that out for himself or herself. It's like, okay, I'm going through some stuff. Take the time to identify it. I mean, be real with yourself, right? Write it out. It doesn't mean pour your heart out to everybody, because that might not be the right approach at this point. But write out what you're going through. What are your challenges? How do you feel? What are your habits? What seems to be life-giving and what doesn't? And you'll find there's some areas of your life that really are holding you back. And I think that it's important to go ahead and deal with those things. And that might mean getting some professional help too. I mean, I tell you what, having the right person just to bounce things off of, who's a good listener and who can help you explore what it is that's causing these challenges, that can be very, very valuable. However, if you are wearing a victim mentality and competing to who can get the most attention by being the bigger victim, then get over yourself. That is life defeating. You cannot make it in this world that way.
Mm.
And those are hard words to say, but I mean it. If you're competing to be the bigger victim, then get over yourself. You're hurting yourself and everyone around you. So stop. Now, many of you truly are victims. So the question then becomes, how am I crawling out of this hole that I'm in? What am I doing to get out of this quagmire, this ditch, right? What steps am I taking so that I can be better for myself and for others? That's the attitude to have. And I have to also point out, there are many, many, many cases where people who seem to have life served to them on a silver platter, every need met, every want, every desire, can't succeed in life because they never learned how to deal. And then there are people who came out of horrible circumstances, who picked themselves up by the seat of their pants and made a way forward and learned what hard work, inner work, and outer work, what the hard work can do that can be so rewarding, so beneficial and life-giving. And sometimes those are the people that succeed the most, the ones who actually truly had it tough. So sometimes I think the people that seem to have it all easy in the beginning are actually the victims. And quite often they're the ones who are pretending to be the victims. Like I said, get over yourself. But those of you who truly were victims, you know what it takes to overcome. And good for you. You've learned one of life's most valuable lessons. Now put it to work. Keep
Right.
overcoming.
Absolutely. The last thing that I wanted to talk about was how to build a life spiritually, have really healthy spirituality. What does that look like?
Wow. Again, we could have 25 different YouTube channels that did nothing but explore that one thing.
Right.
I'd like to start by saying that, there are lots of different views about spirituality and religion and faith. And it's a worthwhile thing to explore. Everybody worships something. So the question isn't whether or not you are a believer, quote unquote, or what if you're worshiping the right God, quote unquote, or whether you should not be worshiping anything at all. That's not the question. The question is, what are you worshiping? Because you are worshiping something.
Mm.
And when I say that, I mean that life and how you live it is an act of worship. It's what you invest in, what you believe in, that you think is beneficial for you and others, that you put your energy and your focus on. That's an act of worship. So what are you worshiping? And if you're worshiping the wrong things, then whoo, man, life stinks. So when someone starts talking about spirituality, some people dismiss it and they say, no, 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 no. I'm an atheist. I believe that life is just, what we can see around us and measure and empirically evaluate. So that spiritualism stuff's not for me. Well, sorry. That's what you're worshiping. You're worshiping
Right.
being a materialist then. or maybe it's your job, or maybe it's something else, but you are worshiping something. So I'm going to expand this idea of spirituality a little bit to um, sorting out what you are worshiping directly and indirectly, even if you're an atheist. Matter of fact, atheism is a powerful religion. It's one of the most religious religions that I know of. And I
Right.
know, I'm sorry, you atheists out there. I know I just made you angry. But if we do a comparative study of various religions, then atheism is a religion. It's a belief system that people serve and worship. So, like so many other things. So, if we are all worshiping something, we need to make sure we're worshiping the right thing. So, when you ask the question, Lydia, about spirituality, then I think wow, it opens up so many doors. Um, I'm not a very religious dude,
Nope.
but I have a deep faith, and I have studied religion my entire life. And when I say my entire life, I mean from as soon as I have a memory, I was studying religion. And I've studied all sorts of world's religions. I've studied different branches of Christian religions. I've studied different types of philosophies, which actually become religions. And I think that it's incredibly important to put some energy into that. Matter of fact, we always say, belief matters. What you believe is going to shape your life. Well, this is one area of belief.
Mm.
Um, I'll be the first to acknowledge that religion has caused a lot of harm in this world. And that's because nefarious people have used religion to try to control other people, to get the upper hand. And then other people fell prey to the nefarious people. And even with the best of intentions, fall in lockstep and keep repeating that same cycle. And they all think they're doing it for a greater good. And some of them are. But I'll be the first to admit that religion has caused so much harm in this world. But in the opposite side, religion has also created so much good in this world. And I'm not really super religious, but I tell you what, I believe in relationship with something greater than yourself. And I believe in a creator. And I believe in faith and the power that has to heal and to make your life so much better. So if you're ignoring your spiritual growth, that may be a weird word to you, but maybe give it a little bit of time. Open the door just a crack and say, for thousands and thousands of years, people have lived and sacrificed and died based on belief systems that they held to be valuable and true. Societies have risen and fallen over these belief systems. And atheism is just another one of those. So maybe it's worthwhile to see what kind of a heritage we have. It doesn't mean you have to agree with it. It means that there's amazing value there. And if nothing else, look at the humanities, the amazing artwork and music and architecture and sculpture. And, this grew out of a passion for belief in ideals. And maybe the biggest ideal of all is that humans can be better, and that
Right.
religion offers us some pathways to consider on how life can be better.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I also would add to that for any listeners out there that are exploring spiritual growth, I I would be very careful
Mm,
that whatever you're exploring is life-giving for you.
yes.
If it feels somehow like it's dark or um feeding into the death culture, that's not what we're talking about here in terms of spiritual growth. We're talking
No.
about something that gives you love and joy, and you're feeling peace, and you get more out of life. You become energized by this type of spiritual growth. So that's what we're talking about here.
Boy, we could open up a theological can of worms. I'm trying to reduce this down to something more general that is more applicable without getting into years of theology. But you talk about things being life-giving. Some things are very much life-taking, and we've talked about this. Not life isn't binary. It's not just on and off. There's a lot of gray and difficult decision making that goes along the way, but there are paths that lead toward greater life and love and light and knowledge and understanding and joy, and there are paths that lead to destruction, little by little by little, and often the paths to destruction are the ones with the flashier lights.
Mm.
And there's a belief system that comes out of the Christian religion that Satan is an angel of light. Now, what's interesting about that is that if you look at the original language, Satan's not a name of a person or a being. It's the Satan, lowercase, and that means the evil one or an evil one or an evil influence, right? And that the idea that the evil influence presents itself as a gorgeous, wonderful, beautiful angel of light.
Mm.
So it takes discernment. It takes discernment because I can just say it this way: if it looks super exciting and easy, it's probably too good to be true. You might be, because learning about what your place is in this world and in this existence, and what the answer to the meaning of life is, those sorts of deep questions, they're not easy, they're not quick, they're not you know the next
Right.
fix.
Click here to redeem your free iPad.
Exactly, exactly. So anyway, don't fall prey to the stupidity. But I would say that in the world's religions, almost I might be able to say all, but I'm not going to. Almost all of the world's religions have come across some amazingly good insights. And I can say that all of them have also missed the boat. They've messed up too. And I'm talking about religion rather than truth. Two
Mm.
different things. Religion rather than relationship. Two different things. Um, Human religions, it's a bunch of humans doing the best they can. Well, guess what? Isn't that what we all are? Hopefully we're doing the
Right.
best we can.
Yep.
So I think we got to have a lot of grace when it comes to these sorts of conversations. We really do.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, those are all the questions that I had for you. Do you have any closing remarks for our listeners?
I have 3 words. You probably know what they are. The first word is purpose. The second word is goals. And the third word is direction. So if you want to know how to build a life, sort out something purposeful that you believe in, that aligns with your values, a purpose, something you feel like pouring yourself into. And that can change. You don't have to get stuck. But once you know what your purpose, at least for now, is something you really think you could contribute to and make a difference, then you'll be able to build some goals around that. And goals like we discussed, big ones, medium ones, small ones, daily, minute goals. And as you start moving through the journey toward these goals and that life purpose, boy, it makes life so much better. And that's where your direction comes from. It comes from knowing, oh, this doesn't help my purpose. This doesn't align with my values or my goals. And or wow, that really could help my purpose. And so it helps you to sort out your direction and where you should put your energy and spend your time. So
Mm.
those 3 ideas, a lot of people talk about goals, but it doesn't start with goals. It starts with your values and your purpose. So figure that out first. Values and purpose, and they may not be ultimate, right? They're just like, well, this would be great to do right now. And yeah.
I love that. That sounds really great. Well, listeners, thank you so much for joining us on the College of Valor. I hope that this gave you some food for thought and that you have some pretty cool ideas about next steps on how to build your life.
Thank you, everyone, for giving us the time today. And thank you, Lydia, for your insightful questions. And I want to just throw in there, we stayed on the very surface of all of this stuff, but I was trying to build a framework of a structure you can work in to begin sorting this out. But we're going to do deep dives into a lot of these conversations about how to set and accomplish life goals and how to determine your values and all this sort of thing. That's all a part of what this project is all about. But more than just being a project, this project is about you. It is one of my life goals to help other people to have the skills they need to build their own better life. And with that, I want to say, love you guys, and we'll see you next time.
Love you guys.